gadgets that sent their owners to the hospital. Hoverboard. Remember 2015? Everyone was obsessed with hoverboards. Every teenager wanted to look like a character from a sci-fi movie, cruising through the mall looking cool. There was just one tiny problem. These things had a weird habit of catching fire. Meet Jason Hull from Louisiana. In December 2015, Jason bought his son a hoverboard for Christmas. Cool gift, right? Jason decided to charge it beforehand so his kid could start riding right away Christmas morning. He left the device charging overnight in the living room and went to bed. At 3 a.m., the family woke up to the sound of an explosion. The hoverboard didn't just catch fire, it literally exploded like a miniature bomb. The fire spread through the house so fast that the family barely escaped. The house burned down completely, and Jason got second-degree burns trying to put out the fire. And this wasn't an isolated incident. That same year, 15-year-old Mackenzie Hatter from Alabama was seriously injured when her hoverboard exploded right under her while she was riding it. Imagine you're just cruising down your hallway, feeling like a hero from the future, and suddenly, boom! The lithium-ion battery decides today's a good day for fireworks. Mackenzie suffered burns on her legs and was hospitalized. Doctors said she was lucky. The battery could have exploded with much more force. By the end of 2015, the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission had documented over 60 fires related to hoverboards. Dozens of people ended up in hospitals. Amazon even started recalling thousands of units. Turns out, many cheap hoverboards were manufactured with counterfeit batteries and no proper safety systems. Basically, people were buying time bombs with a transportation feature. The lesson? If your mode of transportation can spontaneously organize a barbecue, maybe stick with good old-fashioned walking. Headphones. Let's talk about Beatrice Riggs from Texas. In 2017, this 16-year-old was hospitalized with partial hearing loss. The reason? She'd been listening to music through headphones at maximum volume for 6 hours straight, every single day for 2 years. But wait, you might say, that's not the gadget's fault, that's just stupidity. And you'd be partially right. But here's what's interesting. Beatrice's headphones were cheap AirPods knockoffs bought from a sketchy website. They didn't have the automatic volume limitation that real devices have. They could pump out sound up to 110 decibels. That's like standing next to a running chainsaw. Doctors discovered Beatrice had irreversible damage to the hair cells in her inner ear. At 16, she had the hearing of a 60-year-old who'd worked in a factory without protection. When the doctor asked her, "Why didn't you turn down the volume?" she answered, "I thought if my ears got used to it, they'd get stronger." No, Beatrice, that's not how it works. Ears aren't muscles. You can't pump them at the gym. But the craziest part of this story is that Beatrice wasn't alone. Between 2016 and 2019, the number of teenagers in the U.S. with hearing loss increased by 30%. Doctors directly link this to the emergence of cheap earbuds that can produce dangerous volume levels. There's even a term for it, iPod ear syndrome. And yes, that's an official medical term. I'm not joking. Smartwatch. Story number 3 will make you look at your smartwatch with suspicion. Daniel Hawk, a 34-year-old IT guy from California, bought a brand new smartwatch with ECG functionality. Cool feature, right? The watch can monitor your heart rhythm and alert you to problems. One morning, the watch started going crazy, warning Daniel about irregular heartbeat. Daniel, being a reasonable person, ignored it. Some kind of glitch, he thought. The watch kept beeping. Daniel kept ignoring it. 3 days later, he passed out at work. He woke up in the hospital where doctors told him he had atrial fibrillation, and if he'd come in a couple days later, it could have ended in a stroke. Okay, you'll say, but the watch saved his life. That's a good story. Hold on, that's just the beginning. Daniel's story went viral. Hundreds of people started panic checking their smartwatches, and that's when the real nightmare began for hospitals. In 2019 to 2020, emergency rooms across America saw an influx of patients with completely healthy hearts. People were showing up with printouts of data from their watches, demanding immediate help. Doctors discovered that many cheap smartwatches gave false readings 30 to 40% of the time. One doctor from New York told me, "We had a woman who came to the hospital 4 times in 1 month. Every time her watch showed arrhythmia. Every time we ran tests. Every time everything was fine. Turns out the sensor was reacting to her hand lotion." But the craziest story happened to a guy named Brad Scheller. His smartwatch detected his heart rate at 210 beats per minute, an almost fatal reading. Brad called 911. Paramedics rushed over with a defibrillator ready. You know what they found? Brad sitting on his couch watching Netflix. His pulse was 72. Normal, healthy pulse. The watch was just picking up the flicker rate of the TV screen that was next to his arm. The ambulance bill, $3,000. Lesson: sometimes technology cares about you so much it costs you $3,000. The massager that went too far. All right, the next story is delicate, but it's too wild to skip. Doctors at a Los Angeles hospital admit a patient with an unusual problem. A 23-year-old guy, name changed in medical documents to Patient X, came in complaining of pain in, well, let's say the lower torso region. After examination, it turned out the young man was stuck in a rather compromising situation with a back massager. According to him, it was a smart massage attachment with automatic mode that he bought on AliExpress for $20. The attachment had a grip function for better massage, and this function worked too well. The device just wouldn't let go. The battery was non-removable. The power button didn't work, and the patient was completely stuck. Doctors had to call in an engineer to disassemble the device. It took 2 hours. This entire operation was documented in a medical journal as emergency removal of foreign electronic object. The surgeon who performed the procedure later gave an interview to a medical publication where he advised, if the package says, for external use only, please believe the label. But wait, the story doesn't end there. That same type of device was linked to at least 12 similar cases between 2017 and 2019. They all had the same problem, a faulty locking mechanism. The manufacturer, an anonymous company from Shenzhen that disappeared from the internet right after the first complaints. And you know what's even better? Amazon kept selling these devices for another 8 months after the first incident. Only after doctors published an article in a medical journal was the product finally removed. Lesson: read the reviews, especially the one-star ones. They'll tell you things the manufacturer would prefer to keep quiet. It's too virtual reality. Virtual reality is awesome until you forget you're in actual reality. Meet Kyle Thompson, a 19-year-old college student from Florida. In 2020, during lockdown, Kyle bought a VR headset to pass the time. He was a huge horror game fan. One night, Kyle was playing a particularly scary game. In the game, a monster attacked him. Kyle instinctively jumped back and flew through his second-story window. Yes, he literally fell out the window. Kyle broke both legs, 3 ribs, and got a concussion. When paramedics arrived, they found him lying on the grass, with the VR headset still on his head. The game was still running. The guy said, "I remember thinking, this graphics got incredibly realistic. Then I realized it wasn't graphics." Kyle's story isn't unique. Between 2016 and 2021, over 1,600 injuries related to VR were documented. People crash into walls, fall downstairs, hit their pets accidentally, and even attack family members, thinking they're enemies in the game. One guy from Britain got nicknamed VR Viking after attacking his wife with a pillow, thinking he was fighting a dragon. The wife was not amused, neither was the pillow. The most absurd case? A man from Arizona smashed his $3,000 TV trying to catch a virtual butterfly. He later tried to sue the game developer for creating an overly immersive experience. The case was dismissed. Doctors even introduced a new term, VR-induced dissociation, a state where the brain is so immersed in the virtual world that it temporarily forgets about the physical boundaries of the real one. Lesson: if you're playing VR, make sure your play area doesn't include stairs, windows, or expensive electronics, and maybe warn your family in advance that you're about to flail your arms around like a maniac. Killer drones. Drones are amazing technology. You can make epic videos, deliver packages, or accidentally slice off part of your face. Enrico Palazzo, an enthusiastic videographer from New York, was filming a wedding with a drone. Everything was going great until the drone lost signal and started falling. Enrico, being a hero, tried to catch it with his hands. The result? 4 deep cuts on his hands and face from the propellers. One of the wounds was so deep it hit a facial nerve. Enrico spent 3 days in the hospital and underwent plastic surgery. The bride and groom divorced a year later, but that's probably not related to the drone. The most shocking drone story happened in 2017. An 11-year-old boy from England named Oscar Webb was seriously injured when his friend's drone went out of control during flight. The propeller hit him directly in the eye. Oscar lost 75% of vision in that eye. Doctors said another millimeter and he would have been completely blind. The kid was 11 years old. The story became so well known that the family started a campaign for stricter drone safety rules. They succeeded in getting Britain to introduce new laws requiring registration of all drones and mandatory safety testing. But the strangest case. In 2019, a woman in California was hospitalized after her own drone attacked her. She launched it indoors, first mistake. The propeller got caught in her hair, second mistake. And the drone started literally wrapping her hair around itself like spaghetti on a fork. The woman panicked and tried to turn off the drone, but only made things worse. Eventually, her husband cut off part of her hair with scissors while she screamed. The drone had to be completely disassembled. The woman suffered a scalp injury and a huge bald spot. She wrote an angry Amazon review, "This drone hates women." The drone got 2.5 stars out of 5. Exploding phone. Remember the Samsung Galaxy Note 7? It was the 2016 flagship phone that was supposed to be the iPhone killer. Instead, it became just a killer. The phone had a small problem. It exploded. Just like that, without warning. The first reports started appearing in August 2016. Phones were catching fire while charging. Then during calls, then just in people's pockets. One of the most famous cases is the story of Jonathan Strobel from Florida. Jonathan charged his Note 7 overnight and went to sleep, placing the phone on his nightstand. At 4 a.m., he was woken by the sound of an explosion. The phone exploded with such force that it burned a hole in the nightstand and set the carpet on fire. Jonathan got first-degree burns trying to put out the fire. His cat, who was sleeping on the same nightstand, got singed whiskers. The cat was in shock but survived. But the most dramatic case happened on a plane. In October 2016, a Southwest Airlines flight was emergency evacuated after a passenger's Note 7 started smoking and caught fire mid-flight. 75 people were evacuated via emergency slides. Several passengers sustained minor injuries during evacuation. After that, the Note 7 was officially banned on all flights. It was the first time in history that a specific phone model was banned as hazardous cargo. Samsung recalled all 2.5 million devices. The company lost about $5 billion, and the phrase Note 7 became a meme and synonym for technological failure. The cause? A defective battery. Turns out when you try to cram the most powerful battery into the thinnest possible body, sometimes physics beats design, and it wins with an explosion. Fitness trackers. Let's talk about people who got so obsessed with fitness trackers that they literally tracked themselves into the hospital. A woman named Emily Chen from Seattle bought a new fitness tracker with step counting and movement reminders. The device was set to a goal of 10,000 steps per day. Sounds reasonable, right? Emily took it as a personal challenge. If she didn't reach the goal, the tracker would vibrate and show a sad emoji. Emily didn't like sad emojis. 3 months later, she was walking 30,000 to 40,000 steps per day. She walked before bed, she walked during lunch, she walked while watching TV. Co-workers called her the walker. The result? Stress fractures in both shins. Doctors said her bones literally cracked from overexertion. She was forbidden from walking for 6 weeks. When the doctor asked why she did it, Emily replied, "My tracker said I was in the top 1% for activity among users. I couldn't stop." This is called fitness tracker disorder. And yes, it's a real thing. Another case, a guy named Brian Rogers from Texas ended up in the hospital with rhabdomyolysis, a condition where muscle tissue breaks down and enters the bloodstream, which can lead to kidney failure. The reason? He was doing 1,000 push-ups a day because his tracker gave him awards for exceeding goals. The doctor told him, "Your tracker was trying to kill you." Brian replied, "But I got the virtual Iron Man badge." Lesson: numbers on a screen aren't reality. Your body is reality. And if your body says stop and your tracker says keep going, listen to your body. Admit it. It was cool or just weird. Either way, you're still here. You know the rules. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment saying I'm a genius or a complete mess. See you in the next madness. Stay with me.